Very uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so we'll see what comes.
Okay, this is wild. Lexie Hall just dropped the news that's got Fever fans absolutely spinning. She's officially leaving Indiana. And yeah, we're talking about the same Lexie who's been Caitlin Clark's unwavering running mate through all the chaos of their rookie season. Now she's out. And honestly, the fans are losing it. What the heck went wrong here? And what does this mean for Caitlin and the entire Fever squad? Before we dive deep, what's your first reaction? Do you think she made the right call? Because let's be real, this one sting.
Lexie Natasha tweeted and was just saying a bunch about pride and how proud she was of this team. Have you kind of had similar emotions the last couple of days, and how do you balance that with a very painful ending to the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think like following the game, it's so disappointing to lose. And most seasons end on a loss, so it's really hard and challenging. But I think when you sit back and think about our year and everything that we were able to accomplish with the circumstances that we were faced with.
You see, Lexie Hall wasn't just some random name on the roster. She was one of the few players who actually played with genuine grit when the season went completely sideways. We're talking about a player diving on the floor, chasing every loose ball, doing all those crucial little things that never ever make it into the highlight reels. And now her contract situation was already a bit shaky. She was a restricted free agent, meaning Indiana could have kept her by matching other offers. But the fact that Lexie is publicly talking like someone who's already packing her bags tells us everything. When an athlete keeps repeating words like uncertainty, and we'll see what comes, you don't need a translator. That's basically athlete code for I'm out of here.
Very uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so we'll see what comes. Elliot?
Now let's rewind a bit, because her exit didn't just happen out of thin air. The Fever season was, to put it mildly, a total mess. Between injuries, rotations that made absolutely zero sense, and the constant deafening noise around Caitlin Clark, it's honestly a miracle they didn't completely collapse in June. Lexie, though, she was one of the rare few who kept things stable. Whether she was starting, coming off the bench, or even playing out of position, she always showed up. And then there's her interview. You could practically hear the exhaustion, the disappointment, and a definite I'm over this vibe in her tone. She said she loved Indiana, loved the fans, loved the people. But get this, she didn't say she loved what was happening in the franchise itself. That silence, my friends, spoke volumes more than any quote ever could when she mentioned, "I've built a life here." That wasn't some promise to stay. It was a goodbye speech, cleverly disguised as a polite answer. She's smart. She knows how to leave without burning any bridges. And the timing, it's intent. The Fever are heading into one of the most uncertain off-seasons ever, with Caitlin Clark recovering from an injury, CBA negotiations falling apart, rumors swirling about a potential 2026 lockout, and now Lexie, who was literally one of Caitlin's closest teammates, walking away. If this isn't a massive warning sign, then I honestly don't know what is.
It's better. I'm excited to sit down and not do anything for a little bit. Yeah.
For you, what was this season like in terms of the different iterations and the different versions of yourself that you had to play, different roles, shooting, defense, diving, all those different things?
Yeah, I mean, the year, I feel like my role changed throughout the course of the year. I think continuing to just show up as my best self, regardless of starting or not, or playing more on the ball defensively or off, whatever the night looked like, I feel like my ability to adapt grew throughout the year. And that's something that I think I can continue to work on my game, is being flexible and being able to really just do whatever the team needs. And this year, I think everyone on our team was challenged.
Lexie's interview also revealed something way deeper. She's clearly fed up with how chaotic everything has become. She talked about constantly adapting to different roles, how the lineup kept changing, and how players had to just show up and perform no matter what the night looked like. Translation: absolutely zero consistency. She never knew what version of the Fever she was walking into each game. And honestly, it's true. Coach Stephanie White was juggling lineups like she was testing random combinations just to see what might stick. One night, Lexie was guarding wings. The next, she was a catch-and-shoot specialist. And then suddenly, she was a defensive anchor on switches. That's an insane amount of pressure and instability to put on one player without any rhythm or consistent role.
For just every single thing we faced, I think, is something that we won't forget. Like the injuries, the playing through people that playing with groups that we are just haven't even practiced with for the first time in games. Like we were faced with so much uncertainty. So I think there isn't like one pinpoint game where I'm like, I'll remember that game. It's almost.
Still, she handled it all better than most. And even her words about adapting and being flexible weren't just generic answers. That was Lex's polite way of saying, I kept my mouth shut and did what I was told. And then there's the part where she mentions being excited about Unrivaled. Oh, yeah. She's not heading home to just rest up. She's joining the Unrivaled League, the brand new off-season project run by none other than Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart. And that, my friends, tells you everything you need to know about where players' heads are right now. They simply don't trust the WNBA system anymore. They want something that gives them more control, more visibility, and frankly, more money. Lexie's move there isn't just about basketball. It's about security. She knows the WNBA could plunge into lockout chaos next season. So why not invest her energy somewhere that's actually stable and offers a clear path? It also speaks volumes about where her loyalty truly lies. She didn't utter a single bad word about Caitlin. In fact, when asked about her, she sounded genuinely emotional, saying it was really hard seeing Caitlin struggle with injuries and not being able to compete. You could absolutely feel the respect there. But she didn't say, I'm staying to help her bounce back. Instead, she said she was proud of her ability to show up. That's a very nice, very classy way of saying goodbye. And that's where things get super interesting. If Lexie Hall, who is one of the most team-oriented, positive players you'll find, is walking out, that means morale is dangerously low because Lexie is not the type of person to run from a challenge. She literally said in that same interview that her biggest strength was her competitiveness and her will to win. So, if she's leaving, it's not because she's scared. It's because she's tired. Tired of uncertainty, tired of instability, and probably tired of being on a team where one player vacuums up all the headlines while the rest get completely forgotten. Now, before anyone twists that, let me be clear. No, it's not Caitlin's fault. But it is the harsh reality. The media doesn't care about anyone else on the Fever. When Caitlin sneezes, it's a headline. When Lexie dives on the floor for the 10th time in a row, nobody even notices. You can only take that for so long before you start thinking, you know what, maybe I'll go where I'm actually appreciated. Then there's the fan reaction. Social media absolutely blew up the second this news dropped. Some fans are devastated while others are all, it's business. She'll be fine. But there's a common underlying theme. Everyone knows this hurts Caitlin Clark more than anyone else. Because Caitlin's inner circle in Indiana was already tiny. Lexie wasn't just a teammate. She was one of her closest friends on the team. They shared interviews, practiced together, and were often the only two players still smiling during the worst losses. Now, Caitlin is heading into next season with even fewer people she genuinely trusts in that locker room. And let's not ignore the timing with the ongoing CBA talks. Lexie explicitly mentioned that this offseason is uncertain for the entire league. That wasn't just a throwaway line. That was her acknowledging that every player is anxiously waiting to see what happens next with pay conditions and even league leadership. So, while some fans are acting surprised, Lexie probably saw this coming months ago. She's been watching the same chaos unfold as everyone else. And as a restricted free agent, she likely decided early on that if things didn't dramatically improve, she was walking. She also mentioned wanting to get better offensively. That's huge because one of the biggest criticisms she faced in Indiana was her inconsistency on offense. She was solid defensively, sure, but her shot selection and rhythm were off and off. Again, probably because her role kept changing every other week. By going unrivaled, she gets more touches, more freedom, and a faster game that fits her style much better. And honestly, good for her. It's refreshing to see a player take control of her own path instead of passively waiting for a front office that clearly doesn't know what it's doing. Now, what does this actually mean for the Fever? Simple. They just lost one of their most crucial glue players. You can replace scorers, but you can't easily replace the player who does everything, defends, hustles, brings relentless energy, and never complain. Caitlin Clark is still the undisputed franchise centerpiece, but now she's surrounded by even more question marks. Who's stepping up next season? Who's going to defend the perimeter with the same intensity Lexie? Who's going to be that steady person keeping the energy up when the team inevitably collapses mid-aim? Because let's be honest, there were plenty of those games. And before anyone says it's fine, they'll just draft someone new. Let's remember, you cannot draft chemistry. You cannot replace trust overnight. And right now, Indiana feels more like a revolving door than a stable, cohesive team. The irony of it all, Lexie said she was proud of how the team fought for the people who couldn't be out there. That line hits incredibly hard because Caitlin wasn't out there for a good chunk of the season. And now one of the key players who fought for her won't even be there next year either. It's poetic and definitely not in a good. The Fever fan base for once actually had a core to root for. Caitlin, Lexie, Boston, and a few others. Now that core is starting to fall apart before it even reached its potential. If management doesn't fix things fast, this team could very well end up being a chaotic one-player show. And that's never good for a franchise desperately trying to rebuild its credibility. So the big takeaway, Lexie Hall leaving isn't just a routine roster move. It's a blaring red flag for how incredibly messy the Fever's future looks right now. So here's the real question everyone's quietly asking. What happens to Caitlin Clark now? Because let's be honest, Lexie Hall leaving isn't just some small roster move for Caitlin. It's a total punch in the gut. This was one of the very few teammates who actually got her, who didn't make everything about ego or the spotlight. Losing Lexie means losing the one person who truly balanced that locker room energy. You could always tell that Lexie and Caitlin just clicked. They had that quiet chemistry, not the flashy viral clip kind, but the type that keeps a team calm when everything around them is falling apart. When Caitlin started getting double-teamed, Lexie was usually the one cutting to bail her out. When the press sounded Caitlin after a tough loss, Lexie was sitting right beside her, offering silent support. That kind of bond matters way more than any stat sheet. Now that crucial support system is gone and Caitlin's entering her second pro year, the one where the entire league expects her to lead, score, defend, talk to the media, and somehow stay calm while the entire basketball world watches her every single move. That's already a mountain of pressure for a 23-year-old. Add the fact that her closest teammate just walked out. That's just plain rough. But here's the twist. This could actually be the exact moment Caitlin finally becomes a leader everyone keeps talking about. Last year, she was a spark plug, the rookie who brought fans back to the WNBA in droves. This year, she'll have to be the undeniable adult in the room. No more leaning on veterans for emotional backup. No more sidekick who smooths things over in the media. It's entirely on her now. And maybe that's not a bad thing at all, because we've seen Caitlin Clark's attitude before. Fiery, loud, competitive to a fault. Sometimes that intense edge made her teammates uncomfortable, but it's also what made her great. With Lexie gone, Caitlin might not have anyone to hide behind. She'll either step into that leadership role fully, or she'll crack under it. And here's what's also incredibly interesting. Lexie's exit shows the rest of the roster what happens when people get completely fed up. Players talk. And everyone in that locker room now knows that if someone as loyal and dedicated as Lexie Hall can leave, literally anyone can. That might light a fire under the team. Or it might make things even more divided. Either way, Caitlin's going to have to manage the fallout. That means more communication, more accountability, and less of the I'll just handle it myself attitude. She simply can't carry this entire franchise on her own anymore. Indiana's management is already shaky, and the last thing they need is another season where the only highlight is Caitlin arguing with refs while the team loses by 20 points. Caitlin also has to deal with the unavoidable fan narrative, and you know it's coming to second Lexie sign somewhere else. Social media is going to explode with takes like nobody wants to play with Caitlin Clark. You can already see the tweets forming. She's going to have to tune that noise out and show leadership through how she plays, not how she claps back online. And maybe this is the perfect challenge for her. Without Lexie, there's no safety net. She'll have to build new chemistry from scratch, men are rookies, and become the player that teammates actually trust, not just the one the media love. If she can pull that off, she'll prove she's more than just a headline or a ratings boost. But if the Fever front office doesn't get her some real help soon, shooters, defenders, anyone who can take a little pressure off her, next season could turn ugly fat. You cannot build a successful franchise around one star while letting the people who make it all work quietly walk away. So yeah, Lexie Hall leaving stings for Caitlin, for the fans, for the entire Fever culture. But it might also be the very thing that finally forces Caitlin Clark to grow into the undeniable leader everyone wants her to be. So what do you think? Will Lexie Hall's exit push Caitlin Clark to truly grow as a leader, or is this just the beginning of a much bigger problem in Indiana? Drop your take in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because the Fever drama, my friends, is only heating up from.